Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Samantha Anderson. I am a freelance artist and teacher hoping to inspire creativity. If you would like more videos like these, please take a second to like and subscribe down below. It really helps in the algorithm of YouTube to help get my videos seen to more people. If you want to receive notifications of when I go live, please make sure to hit the bell and choose all notifications. If you have any questions during or after the class, make sure to pop a comment down below and I will answer it as soon as I can. If interested in learning more about my classes, please follow me on Facebook and Instagram. And feel free to check me out on Patreon, where I teach exclusive classes to those who support me. In Patreon, I also give traceables for all of my live classes, including this one. Lastly, if you would like to share your work after class with me and others who painted along with us, please head over to Facebook, as I have an artist community where you can share your finished painting with us. I'll leave links for all of that in the description box below. Thanks for joining me, and let's get started. Hello, and welcome back to another YouTube tutorial. My name is Samantha Anderson. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today we are going to be doing this lovely seascape, so I'm so excited that you decided to join me. If you are new to the channel, make sure that you subscribe. You'll get updates on future classes, free classes, as well as classes over in my Patreon. And yeah, I'm just super excited to be painting with you guys. So yeah, go ahead and leave a comment down below if you are new to the channel or new to painting, or maybe you're painting with someone. Just let me know. I would love to know. But yeah, let's go ahead and just jump right in. So as with every single class, I do have a traceable available for all of my classes, including this one, over in my Patreon. If you're not familiar with Patreon, it is it's a platform that I can you can support me as an artist, as well as I can give you guys special things that are only exclusive to my patrons in my Patreon. So a traceable is something that I give to my patrons as kind of a thank you for supporting me. And that's at the $5 tier level. I'll leave a link down below in the chat. It should be a pinned post, as well as in the description, over in the event, on my page. It's kind of everywhere. So feel free to check that out. If you don't want to use a traceable this class, that is totally fine. I'm not going to be using one, but I know a lot of people really like having something on their canvas before they start, because sometimes it can be a little daunting having just a blank canvas to work with. And if you're a beginner and would like some sort of direction on your canvas before you get started, traceables are a great tool to use until you get more familiar with being able to just create from nothing. So feel free to go and grab that in my Patreon. It's just $5 a month. It is the beginning of the one of two free tutorials of the month, so you'll get not only access to this one, you'll also get access to the one in 2 weeks, as well as you'll get access to our whole archive of traceables for every single tutorial that I've ever painted over in YouTube. So and which is where you're watching this. So if you have seen other classes that you would like a traceable for, you can also just subscribe for 1 month, because it is on a monthly basis. You can subscribe for 1 month, grab a couple traceables. You can stay as long as you want, or you can just stay, grab what you need, and you can leave, and that's totally fine. All patrons are a help to me and my family, and it's a way of kind of like I've seen a lot of artists like have like a little like donate, like buy me a coffee. I don't drink coffee, so this is a way that you can support without, you know, buying me coffee and something that I don't drink. I drink lots of water, probably not as much as I should, but I like hot cocoa. But yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and go over all of the other supplies for this class. We kind of have an array of colors today, because not only do we have the blues and the teals and the greens, we also have the yellows and the browns. We don't have very many warm colors in terms of like reds, but we might have a little bit of oranges and some yellows in there at the top. So let's go over supplies. So I have the traceable in my Patreon that's available to all patrons. all leveled patrons, and then I have an 11 by 14 stretched canvas. So I do have to paint the sides. I prefer having sides because then I can just place it right on the wall. And so I will wrap the canvas. Wrapping the canvas is just painting the edges of the canvas. I have 2 waters. I have an array of brushes. Now for our brushes, let me show you kind of what I normally have for classes, and I'll show you the edits that we're going to have for this specific class. I have a large filbert. I have a small filbert. And I have a bunch of round brushes. I have a texture brush. We're going to be using this for clouds. If you don't have a texture brush, it is simply, for me, it is simply a medium round brush that I only use for texture. And one of my big textures, I use it for dry brushing and clouds. So it's really rough around the edges. I don't use it for line work. It is not a line work brush. It is very frayed, and that's kind of the point of it. It's my rough brush. I can do whatever I want with this brush, and it works out great. Other brushes that I have that I try to keep a little bit nicer, but sometimes I forget. I have a couple other round brushes, and then I have a liner brush. And then that's kind of my go-to brushes for every class. I always have those available. And then other things you might want to have on hand is maybe a fan brush of some sort, so that we can do some the palm fronds. Depending on how you want to do it, you can put in every single stroke with a liner brush, depending on how much time you have. If you're a little bit more, I don't know, I wouldn't say abstract, but if you want to do a little bit quicker, you can have a fan brush, or if you don't have either of those, you can get just another brush that maybe frays a little bit, and you can use that brush. So I also have this brush that is very old and frayed, that sometimes I can use for like fur and things that separate, kind of like that, which might be good for this instant. So kind of just have something on hand that you can kind of use for the that type of texture. And yeah, we're just gonna have fun with it. Colors, let's go over some colors. So I have my basic colors of my black, white, and brown. And then other colors you're gonna wanna have on hand is gonna be your blues. So now I have a few different blues. Let's see, where did my dark blue go? Oh, it's hiding behind the black. So I have these 2 blues. I have a phthalo blue, and then I have a turquoise green. These colors go so well together. And then I'm not even going to get my green out. I'm actually just going to pair it with some yellow, and that's going to create kind of that green, greenish yellow down here. And then we're also going to have our orange along with that yellow. So here, I'll just kind of lay these out for you. And these bottles, bear in mind that these are Hippie Crafter acrylics. These are full body acrylics. They are not the craft acrylics that you would get at Michael's or Hobby Lobby. They are in the bottles, but don't let that deceive you. They are the full body acrylics. They're not soft body acrylics. So they're still as thick as like your normal either Grumbacher or Liquitex, Master's Touch, all that stuff. Full body professional acrylics. So don't get confused with the bottles. Okay, so I have my blues, my yellows and oranges, and then I have my black, white, and brown off to the side. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much all you're gonna need. And if we need to grab anything else, we can always grab it during the class. No biggie. Okay, let's go ahead and put a coat of blue on. Is that it? Is that all my stuff? I have water, paper towel, and palette. Yes, I think we're good. Everybody ready to paint? Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a wash of blue. This is going to be our blue sky color. And this during this wash, we are going to be able to figure out kind of where everything is. Oh, the other color that I didn't mention is a ultramarine blue. So I do have my Phthalo Blue, and that's a bit more of a green blue. That's going to be that really pretty deep blue green of the water. For the ultramarine blue, we don't really want that green in the sky, so we're going to actually use our ultramarine blue for this purpose. So that's the other one. I'll have everything linked down below. I just forgot to mention it. So I have my my ultramarine blue. I want to grab my white. Going to be a big dab of it because we're going to use this throughout the entire class. And we're going to use a palette knife. Something I didn't mention was a palette knife. I use a palette knife in every single class for mixing my colors ahead of time or applying paint to the canvas, but most of the time it's just mixing colors, so don't be afraid. Grab yourself a kit of palette knives. They are super handy to have. I use them all the time on my glass palette, which I have everything linked in a Amazon list on my Amazon store. I'm an Amazon affiliate. I do get a portion at no extra cost to you, but I have all of my favorite supplies on my Amazon store, on my Amazon list. I have teacher favorites, I have extra supplies, I even have like kids artist supplies as well that are like really fun for littles. So if you want to go look at that, links are down below. Feel free to go check that out. But I do have all the stuff that I use in these classes or something very, very similar that I use, okay? So we are going to grab our white and some blue and just start with just a tiny, tiny bit of blue. And I think I'm going to go ahead and put on my Phthalo Blue on here because we're going to end up using it anyways. But the ultramarine blue does tend to be very cold. And while the sky is a bit colder than the ocean, it does have a little bit of that warmth. So I'm just going to grab a tiny bit of this blue, of the Phthalo Blue, and mix it in to my sky blue. And play around with your colors. Play around with your quantity of white to blue to Phthalo Blue, and play around with the quantities of your paint and see what color you like best. It might be more cooler. It might be more warmer. It might be lighter than you think. If I put this on here, it's probably going to be fairly dark, which is totally okay. The first thing we're going to do, though, we are going to be doing a wash. So I'm going to take, after you get your color, I'm going to take my biggest brush of my normals. So that's going to be my my 3/4 inch filbert, and I'm going to give it wet. I'm going to kind of wipe it off just so it's not dripping, but that still has a good amount of water in it. And I'm just going to fill my brush, and I'm going to coat this whole thing. Kind of doing the sides first because sometimes I tend to forget the sides. I forget that they exist. Out of sight, out of mind. Sometimes that happens even when I'm painting. I'm gonna grab a little bit more of this paint, and I'm just going to put this on the whole thing. Something I like about doing these kind of undercoats, or what would be just like a first coat or a wash. And this is a bit thicker than a wash, but you can see how you can see just all of every stroke. Usually washes are a bit thinner. But I really enjoy doing this because not only do you kind of get the lay of the land, but you can also see if the color you chose is correct before laying on a thick layer of paint. And then I'm gonna go ahead and just go over the whole thing, just so there's not an enormous amount of different lines going everywhere. And this will just help later when we're putting on our second coat. I find a lot of freedom in doing an undercoat like this because I know I'm not focusing on any details yet. I'm just looking at the color, and it's honestly, it's like really soothing to play with like all the like the lines and everything. I don't know, for me it's just like really satisfying. So I enjoy it. Alright, so I'm gonna put this blue pretty much all the way down, but when we get to the bottom, I'm gonna be a little bit more like watered down. And this is where we get to kind of figure out the lay of the land. So I'm just gonna get this on here. All right, so the ocean is probably somewhere about here. So I'm just gonna take some of this and go a little bit thicker right here. I think that's about right. And now what I'm going to do is take a little bit of this phthalo blue and a little bit of this white, just so it's a slightly different color. And I'm going to put a little bit of this in here, just so my brain can kind of tell the difference between what's the sky and what's the ocean. The colors does not have to be, you're not committing to any color yet, okay? You're kind of just figuring out the lay of the land. We have some lighter colors coming in here. And then up here is kind of like these rocks. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put what would kind of be here in this area. And at any point you can rinse out your brush and take out some of this color. It's actually really fun. Here, I'll watch. So I took out my color in my brush. And you can brush off some of this. You can kind of play around with the shapes and how everything is. Don't forget to paint the bottom, even though it's probably going to be a different color. It's just nice to get that first coat of paint in all the crevices of the canvas. Alright, so that is a pretty good first coat. And then what I'm going to do is rinse off my brush and kind of figure out where my... Let's figure out where this is going. And this is a great stage to figure out where this is going because nothing is set in stone right now, and you can just go over it. You haven't finished the background. It's not like do or die. It's not like, oh, if I mess up now, it's going to ruin everything. Like, this is the stage to mess up. Like, this is the best stage. So I'm just going to go up here, and this goes to about just over like half. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm taking out the paint. I am not painting this white. That is very important. I am not putting anything on the canvas. I am wetting my brush, wiping it off, and I'm taking off the blue paint. So this is going to be a bit bigger. Probably about that big. And I'm just going to keep going until I have the right size and shape. Again, I'm just going over here and I'm just brushing off. The perspective on this is difficult, or can be difficult, because this really is very big versus the thing at the top is very small in comparison. Alright, I think that's pretty good. And this will just be really helpful for when we're doing our background. We'll already kind of know where everything is, and we won't have to like be asking our questions later about where we want to put it. We're already gonna know. Alright, and I'm just gonna kind of wipe off any extra water. Alright, that is pretty great. So while you guys all finish that up and get all your trees kind of in there, I'm gonna go over what we did, what we've been doing over the last couple weeks over in Patron, as well as what we did 2 weeks ago. So let me grab that. Alright, so this is what we did 2 weeks ago over on YouTube, right here on YouTube. So if you're watching this today, which is August 14th, then it'll be the last live class that I did. So if you like the ocean, seascape sort of vibe, and painting theme, this one was a lot of fun. It was actually easier than I anticipated it being, but it was a lot of fun. I love the teals and the pinks, just livening up the color of the canvas. This one looks really, really cool in low lighting. I don't know why, but every time I walk by it and there's like low lighting on it, or it's like I'm looking in and there's not a whole lot of lighting in the room, it just looks so cool and it looks really realistic. So this one was a lot of fun, so feel free to go and paint that with me. It is a live class, and it was a lot of fun. But over in Patreon, we are doing a fun, colorful one for my magenta tier, which is going to be available this Friday. If you've done any of my abstract, like colorful animals, it's kind of a spin-off of that, except it's going to be in human form. So I dulled down the colors a little bit, and picked some really pretty, vibrant colors. It's not as vibrant as some of the other ones that I've done, and this is, I don't know, I'm not sure why it's bringing up the contrast. Look at my hands are really, really really vibrant right now. It's a little bit more dulled down. It's not as orange. It's more of like a really soft orange. But I loved how this one turned out. It's probably I think it's like a 3.5 to 4 hour class. But it's well worth it. It was a lot of fun. It was so fun to paint. Like, we've done a couple humans in the past, and just kind of playing around with colors and things like that. But this one I really enjoyed. Just like all of like the kind of abstract shapes of it. It kind of reminds me of like if Mother Nature was a person. I don't know, like just with all the trees and kind of the just fun shapes and stuff like that. But yeah, this one was a lot of fun, and I feel like you get a pretty good feel for if you wanted to do like portraits and humans and stuff like that. Especially in this style, I think that would actually be really, really cool, and a really fun style. But yeah, we did that. Or if you want to learn how to do like fro hair, like afro hair, we started off, it kind of started off as like clouds, and then we started adding some detail, and it was actually really, really fun. We didn't do that until the end of the class, but it was like one of my favorite parts. It was really fun. But yeah, that is what we're doing at this is the $10 tier level. And then over in the $20 tier, which is what we do weekly, and all of the classes in any tier that you join over in Patreon, if you join, you'll get access to literally everything I've ever posted for that tier level. So you would have access to all my other Friday tutorials, or in this case, you'll have access to all my other Cobalt classes, all the weekly classes that we do. You'll have access to all of that as long as you're a paying member. As long as you are a paying member. And this class, I am so excited for next Tuesday, because we get to paint flowers. We spent 2 sessions on all of the background, and it's looking so good, and I can't wait to start painting the flowers. So we're going to start painting the flowers, get all of our stems in there, and then a week after that, we'll probably just put all the final details on it. But I'm super excited to paint this. So I really enjoy our Cobalt classes because we get to paint weekly, and not everybody has time to paint all the time. So just putting in a weekly class, it goes for about an hour, sometimes an hour and a half. And it's really, really fun. And it's really laid back. Like, those are some of the most laid back classes that we have, that I have. And they're so nice. They're so nice. And you also learn like how to pace yourself in a painting. Like, if you only get to paint for 30 minutes, you find your stopping point, and you kind of like learn how to like where your stopping points are if you're not painting it in a 2-hour stretch. So for these classes, we paint it all at once, but you don't always get to paint it all at once. Sometimes you have to take little bits at a time. And so part of that class is learning how to pace yourself. So that one's a really fun class. So let's go ahead and continue. I'm going to go ahead and make more of this blue because we are now putting in a full coat of this blue. And I want to make sure that I have enough. I do like this color, so I'm going to create the same color. I just need more of it. So I'm going to grab some of this blue, some of my phthalo blue, and I'm going to recreate the color as best as I can. It doesn't have to be the same exact color. Just getting it close enough. Okay. I'm gonna add just a little bit more Phthalo Blue. That'll make it darker and it'll also make it a tad bit warmer. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and grab this same brush and we're going to put on a thicker coat this time. So this is going to be a thicker coat with little to no water because we want that to really stand out and be thick. And I'm just going to cover the whole sky in this color. I think I might actually go a tad bit darker because as I'm looking at this, it does have a little bit too much lightness to it. So while that dries, I'm gonna go and add a little bit more darkness. We'll see kind of where we are here. You can grab a little bit of water to help everything kind of just blend together if you need to. And don't worry if you don't have all the streaks out of your brush, simply because we are going to be having a little bit of a lighter blue and there's clouds. So I'm going to go ahead and put a lighter blue. So I just added a tiny bit of white to my not even like creating a new color, but just added white to my brush, and that's what I'm brushing with. I'm going to put darkness on the bottom. And you can blend into the cloud area if you want to. It's not super necessary because it's all gonna end up being overlapped anyways. Okay, so I'm noticing as I need a little bit more blue in my color. It's not as dark as I would like it to be. So I'm gonna grab the rest of this ultramarine. And mix it with the rest of the color that I have. And I'm going to put it on top here. All right, I like that a little bit better. And once we start getting in some clouds here, it'll probably look a lot better because that'll add the kind of that contrast that we're looking for. And so I'm gonna grab my cloud brush, or what I call my my texture brush. I'm gonna get white in it, and then I'm kind of gonna pull back a little bit. So I'm going to come in, and while this is still wet, I'm going to go ahead and put in some of these clouds, and I'm just like really kind of roughly adding these in. Just general shapes. And what you're going to do is I'm going to wipe off my brush. And then you can come in and just kind of wisp out the edges. And if you want something to blend a little bit more, you can add just a touch of water. I'm going to go ahead and just add some streaks of paint here. And I'm going to press fairly hard and wiggle my brush and just allow that to blend in. And you can always come over it and add little bits of highlights on the different parts of the clouds. different parts of the clouds are peeking through, are hitting the sun. There's like a cloud here. And when I'm doing this sort of stuff right here, I have barely any paint on my brush. And you can create all sorts of patterns. You can put just a tiny bit of paint on my brush and kind of just tap. You can always kind of brush it out a little bit if it ends up being too much. Put a lighter one over here. Make sure that your clouds extend behind the tree and that they don't just stop randomly at the at the trunk of the tree. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and come and add a little bit of a lighter tone to some of these. And if you need to kind of brush it out with your finger a little bit, you can do that as well. That is pretty good. Kind of get some different atmosphere stuff going on. All right, I think we're good on that. Let's go ahead and do a first coat of our ocean, which means we need to make our blue. So I'm gonna go ahead and get out my teal. And we are going to make 3 tiers of teal. I'm gonna get out some yellow. Right. So the first color is going to be our deep green, our deep blue green. So I'm going to mix together my teal and my phthalo blue. That's going to be the darkest color on the water. Then we are going to make our medium color, which is going to be a little bit more of a lighter teal, kind of, so add some white to it. I'm gonna add just the touch of a touch of yellow, and I'm gonna need some more white. Told you you're going to use a lot of white for this glass. Okay, so there's this. And then in this kind of greenish color, we're going to have that blue that we just created plus yellow and white. And then we're also going to start adding some brown here. So I'm going to go ahead and get some brown out. And we're going to add just a touch of brown to our green. And this will kind of make it a little bit more of an earthy tone. I'm just playing with the ratios of the green, blue, and brown. And the first thing we're going to do is kind of just put on a undercoat and just kind of make sure that all the colors are correct. I'm gonna go ahead and clean off part of this station because I just have a bunch of dried colors taking up space and I don't need them. We're all done with the sky, so I really don't need any of these colors. If you want to keep a sky color because you have extra, you can always use it to fix any mess ups or anything like that. So I can always leave that little tiny bit. Okay, so I'm gonna put this brown over here and I'm gonna add a little bit of yellow, a tiny bit of white, definitely in the lighter category. There we go. Okay, so we kind of have our array of colors. We have our deep teal, our light blue, our green, and then kind of our browns. And all of these colors are kind of going to mix within each other. So don't be afraid to, like, you don't need to have a ton of other colors. If you are not good at straight lines and you feel like you need some tape, feel free to grab your tape and put a straight line on here. I'm going to work from back to front, so I'm going to make that line first. And I'm going to go into that kind of bright green. The bright blue, I mean. I'm kind of just going to mix that in here. Maybe a little bit of white. Now there's a little bit of a darker green, so I mixed the green with the darkest blue and kind of just put that together. A little bit more of some green over here. This white, or this light blue, goes into a pretty light white. But the colors don't have to be precise, and everything's kind of, we're kind of just mixing in everything right now. Just trying to get the basic colors. Remember that everything is wet right now and it's going to blend really well. So now is kind of your chance to play with the colors. I'm gonna go fairly light with this green, and I'm gonna add a little bit more yellow to it. I'm gonna add a little bit of yellow to this green with some white. I'm just going to kind of mix it into what's already here. Don't be afraid to alter your colors and kind of just play around with things. And mix the different colors. So right now I'm mixing green and my dark blue, and it's kind of coming out with like a really pretty darker green color. So I think I pretty much got the different colors that I want. I'm just going to kind of put a little bit of some darker colors over here. Maybe a tiny, tiny bit of brown. I'm going to go ahead and place this kind of yellowish green color clear at the bottom as well. It's very light. I'm gonna add a tiny bit of brown to it. I think that actually works very well. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and let that dry. And while we let that dry, we're going to go ahead and put in the base for our palm tree. Which is mostly white with a touch of raw umber. Alright, that is a pretty good start. I'm going to go ahead and take this darker color. The darker brown. I'm gonna go ahead and just place it in the different spots here. This is kind of still wet, so I'm just going to kind of blend it out a little bit. We will be able to define this in just a little bit. There's not much we can do until it all dries. Okay. Okay. While that all dries, let's go ahead and work on the background. I'm going to do another coat of this dark blue on the very background, just because the first one was just a tad bit see-through, and I just want to make sure that it is in fact not see-through. And then this would be also the time to add any color change of any sort. For instance, I think I'm going to add this blue kind of going all the way out. I'm going to focus a little bit more on the lights and darks and where all of those are. I'm going to get some green over here. And again, just kind of playing with the colors, making sure that the colors are all kind of like where I want them to be. I'm just using the straight teal on the right side of my canvas. And I'm gonna add a little bit of brown to some of my teal. And that'll kind of create like a darkish brown green. And that'll help kind of darken some of the, where some of the rocks are underneath the water. I'm gonna go ahead and add some of this. It's pretty watery because I don't want it too dark. Gonna add in just a little bit more of that color. I don't know how this purple got on my, I see. I wiped my brush right onto it. So for instance, this part right here, I really want right next to like the lightest part of this. And I don't really have like an electric blue. So this is going to be my best version of this. All right, so we're just gonna kind of go back and forth with a little bit of kind of wave motion, and as we get closer, we're going to add a little bit more roughness to the water. I'm going to mix together some white, blue, and my lightest green. A little bit of water. And kind of start putting in your waves slash the little white bubbles, and I'm just using my finger to kind of blur things out a little bit. And as you get closer, you're not going to blur it out. Just kind of wiggling my brush. A little bit of white on there. Maybe we'll do a little bit more white when it gets to the rocks. And I don't have straight white on my brush. I have this little color that's over here. It's like kind of bluish green aqua. It does have white in it, but for the most part it's more of a blue than anything. I'm just kind of going back and forth, adding texture to the water. I'm gonna go into my blue and add a little bit of this blue over here. I am barely touching the canvas. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and mix together some white and green with my light teal, just to add a little bit of light over in the lightest areas. Alright. And then we're going to go ahead and finish up these darker rocks. We're just going to put a darker version of what's already on here. I'm just going to darken up the edges. I'm going to grab my small brush and we're going to grab some black so we can kind of give this some shadow. I'm going to grab a small brush, a little bit of black, a little bit of brown. I'm going to kind of wiggle my brush. Be a little bit rough. You got to have some of that texture on there. If you need to use your texture brush, then go ahead and do that. Otherwise, I'm just kind of gonna go around adding little bits of dark here and there, because we're gonna be able to see a little bit of this, just a little bit of it underneath our water. So for our water, I'm just going to grab the green, blue, and white, and it's going to be the most watered down version of this color. And you're just going to put a wash over where the water is. See that? So I just went over and it kind of like washed out everything that was below the rocks. And get a little bit more black and just put in a little bit more darkness. Our light source is coming from the left, so just keep that in mind when we are adding our shadows. And then for some of our highlights, I'm going to grab some white, a little bit of this tan color, and I'm just going to kind of pounce a little bit. I want to be pounce, I mean like dab. Just so we get a little bit of texture. If you have another brush that you want to use for this, feel free to use whatever brush you feel comfortable in order to get the technique that you are trying to accomplish. Alright, so we are going to let that dry completely before we put on anything else. And let's go ahead and move on to the more of the whatchamacallit, the palm tree. I'm gonna get rid of some of these colors because I just don't need them anymore. They're all dried out. Okay. Let's go ahead and create our brown color. I'm gonna do black, white, and a tiny bit of brown. I'm gonna make kind of like a washed color. That is a beautiful color, perfect. It's like almost like a grayish brown. And then from there, we're going to create our whiter color. So whenever you need to gray something out, like you need it less saturated, just add black and white to it, and that will dull it down. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and add this color to our trunk. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this side first, because it's easier to do it while like in front of me. And then we're just going to turn it over and then do the other side. And if you've ever done this where you're like, oh no, I went too far over, just get a clean brush and wipe away what you didn't, wipe away where you didn't mean to add it. You can always come back. And I did add a little bit of a wiggle. Simply because they are not perfectly straight. It's actually easier just to add a little bit of a wiggle than to try to get a straight line. So if your line is not perfectly straight, that is a-okay, because that is more natural in regards to oops, sorry guys, in regards to the shape of the tree. Okay, so we're gonna make two colors. We're gonna make a slightly lighter color with our white and a slightly darker color with our black. And I'm going to switch over to a smaller brush, and we're just going to kind of add both of these. I have green in here. I'm going to grab a little bit more black. We're just going to add a little bit of texture on this tree. We're just going to add in a little bit of darkness, texture, and it's going to be weird at first because it's going to be like the only thing other than the blue, other than the normal color. And then you're going to come around, just add a little bit of that, try to figure it out. And then we're going to get a little bit of this lighter version. I'm going to put it wherever the dark is not. All right, while that's drying, because we're gonna put on another coat, while that's drying, I'm gonna go ahead and get some white and yellow out. And we're gonna do, just real quick, we're gonna kind of figure out where we want our leaves. This one comes off right here, and it comes all the way down almost to this guy, and then this one comes off over here. There's another one over here, and the last one is over here. There's two over there. All right. Since I'm done with the ocean, so since I'm done with the ocean, well actually, but I don't need any more color. I'm gonna take this green and I'm gonna add some dark blue to it and some yellow, because I don't want to waste paint. And maybe a little bit of brown. I'm just gonna make it a little bit more green. Probably have to get a different green now that I'm doing this, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and I'm gonna get out my fan brush and see if I want to use the fan brush or if I want to use something else. I like this. I just don't like the colors that I'm using. So I'm gonna scrap this green because it's a little bit too white. It's got too much white in it. And I'm gonna grab a green, just a bright green. And I'm going to add some dark colors to it, like my dark blue and some brown. Alright, we're going to make a dark green with this phthalo blue and the bright green that we got out. I'm going to get a little bit of brown, kind of make it a little bit more earthy toned. Mix in some yellow. Okay. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to take some of this yellow with a little bit of white. And I'm going to add some of that with my fan brush. gonna add a little bit of yellow over here. Just in the different spots. All right, now I'm going to switch to a green, maybe green with a little bit of black. I don't know. I'm not totally sold on this color of green, I think, is what's happening. I think I need a little bit more water, and that will help it transfer to the canvas a little bit better. Alright, I think I'm going to switch to a different brush after I do this one right here. Just so they all have at least a little bit of the same texture. They're all a little bit together. I'm going to use my filbert because I think I'll have a little bit more control over maybe not my filbert. So you can see I'm trying different brushes because the brushes that I thought I wanted to use aren't giving me the result that I want. And so I'm playing with the different brushes that I have. And you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to say, you know what, this one's not working out well. I'm going to use a different brush. I'm going to use a flat brush, actually. That might work well. I'm going to put it kind of on its side. I'm just going to add what would be some fond Alright, I'm liking this. So I'm going to go ahead and add this. And I'm essentially adding each one individually, but it's still a lot faster, I feel like, than it would be doing it with like a liner brush. And if you wanted to go like extra realism, then I would use a liner brush, and I would like kind of strategically place each one. And if you have the time and you would like to do that, feel free to take your time and add each, you know, each leaf as you would like to. You don't have to go as fast as I am. You don't have to use the same materials as I am. So I'm gonna grab some kind of yellowish and mix it with the green that I have. I'm gonna add just the slightest bit of white. And I'm gonna add the yellow to the ends here. Maybe a little bit in the middle. And you can also add a little bit of brown. All right, I'm gonna add a little bit of orange to my palette. We are in the home stretch, we're almost done. I'm gonna add a little bit of orange and yellow and white together. And I'm gonna add some orange to the one over here. I'm going to add a little bit of orange to some of the leaves over here. Not all of them, but just some of them. And I'm going to add a little bit more yellow to this. Put on a little bit less paint so it's not as bright. And with this lighter color, I'm going to go ahead and put in the middle of it. Add a little bit of color over here. Don't forget to paint the top of your canvas. Alright, I'm going to do a little bit of black and brown. Just in the middle here to kind of darken up some of the some of the parts in here, just so there's a little bit more contrast. Just adding the different colors. All right, I'm gonna grab this bright kind of yellowish color and add the middle section over here. Brighten up the section over here. Alright, so I'm just kind of adding little bits of detail. And then at the very end, we're going to add a little bit of some brown right here. Alright, I'm going to come back. I went ahead and took that same color and added it to the kind of middle left side, sorry, middle right side of the palm tree. And now I'm just kind of adding some light to it. And I'm just going to take a little bit of a lighter color and add even more light to it. And you're just kind of gonna keep adding until you're happy with it. And if you want to add a little bit more texture, you can add it by turning your brush to the side. And it almost acts as a as sort of a like palette knife type of technique. You can always come back with a little bit of dark. All right. That's pretty much it. And the last thing that you need to do is you go ahead and take some of your white, and you'll mix it in with a little bit of your blue, and you go ahead and add the rest of your lines in the C. So I'm just gonna go across and add a little bit of sea kind of foam in the midst of it. And then as I get on here, whoops, I'm getting paint all over me. I'm gonna add a little bit with this color. But it's mostly going to be a little bit lighter. And you'll kind of want to connect it, like do little zigzags and just go back and forth and add little bits of little bits of bubbles and white. And if you want to add more white, you can flatten your brush. Or you can also take a one of these brushes, just put it on the very end of it, and you can add bubbles in different spots. Alright, and that is pretty much it. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this class. If you are new to my page and you don't know, I have a free artist community that you can go along and share your version of this painting with everyone else who was in the class, and that's a really fun thing. So go ahead and go over to Facebook. You're just going to look up Samantha Anderson Artist Community, and you can find all of the albums of all of the things that I've painted that are available to you guys, whether on Patreon or YouTube, are in there. And you can just click on this album and you can add yours. And then we can go from there. So thank you so much for joining me. We'll see you in 2 weeks, same time, same place. We'll see you then. Bye, guys.